let me just double check with my co-hosts real quick that they're all set. Jessica and Claire, you want to give me a thumbs up if you guys are good on your end for us to get going? Okay, great. Well, let's kick this off, everybody, then, shall we? So yeah, hi everybody. Once again, my name is Denise Flaughton. I'm with LA Works, and just thank you so much for coming to our Martin Luther King Day of Service. Today is the 26th anniversary of this National Day of Service that celebrates the life and legacy of Dr. King. And it's supposedly called a day on, not a day off, because everyone is encouraged to volunteer and support the community. And I would love to share with you this great video from our founder, one of the founders of LA Works, and the chair of our board, Bob Johnson. So, give me just a second. I want to make sure that I give you guys audio so you can hear that. So let's hear a hello from Bob.
Hi, welcome to LA Works MLK Day of Service. I'm Bob Johnson, the chair of the board of directors of LA Works. I want to thank you for joining us today for what is the 26th annual National Day of Service in commemoration of Dr. King's life and legacy and his commitment to social justice. We know that we're living in crazy times, our lives have been turned upside down, and that more than ever, we need to have each other's backs, that we need to come together for the common good of the community. And that's what LA Works has been doing for the past 30 years, bringing together hundreds of thousands of volunteers, trying to make Los Angeles a more livable and more humane city. It's what Dr. King referred to as the beloved community. We have a great lineup of activities for you today. I know you're going to enjoy the virtual March on Washington, where you're going to meet some civil rights heroes and experience that era. We have some fabulous virtual workshops on race and other important social issues that I think you'll find enriching. And that's just today. We have a full calendar of events every month. There's a little something for everybody, so I invite you to check that out. And lastly, I want to extend a special thank you to our staff. We worked incredibly hard, our executive director, Debbie Brucci, our board of directors, our corporate partners, our community partners. And again, thank you for helping us make today possible. We know that the road to change, to social change, starts individually with each of us, and we invite you to join us on that journey. Again, I look forward to seeing you soon in person, and if not in person, virtually. So have a great MLK Day.
So thank you so much. And it wouldn't be, and this whole day wouldn't be possible were it not for our incredibly generous sponsors. So I want to go ahead and thank all the people that are helping today, make today happen. People like Target, LA Magazine, Northrop Grumman, Comcast, NBC, KCET, Jonathan Club, Justice Collective, Macy's, Nodecraft, Geoboxers, Aerospace, Participate, LA Rams, Henshaw, KPCC, and Facebook. You heard Bob Johnson mention that we're doing a Facebook lot. We're doing a Minecraft virtual March on Washington. So we have the whole Washington Mall built out in Minecraft, and Facebook Games is highlighting it today. So if you have a minute, head to the MLK page on laworks.com, and that'll give you directions on how to check out how to safely march on the virtual, do a virtual march on Washington today for MLK Day. I'd also like to let you guys know what's ahead of you today, because we're doing a few different activities. So let me show you what's up for the day. First of all, I'm just going to give you all a big old welcome because we're so excited to have you here. Then we're going to have Yana Simone Grammer from New Earth speak on the criminal justice system and how it disproportionately affects the Black community, with a special emphasis on the juvenile justice system, because that's what New Earth focuses on. After that, Mr. Todd Bynum, the librarian at Eastlake Juvenile Detention Center, is going to talk to us a little bit. Eastlake Juvenile Detention Center is going to be the recipient of our book donation drive. So after Todd speaks, then we're going to do some book shopping for those residents of Eastlake. And then after that, we're going to do our second activity. So you guys aren't just doing one thing today, you're doing two things. You're doing book shopping, and you're also going to do an email writing campaign. So after that, Dominique Davis, I forgot to add Priscilla Martinez is also going to be speaking a bit about bail reform. And they're going to tell you a little bit how our current bail system is not the best running machine, and how newly elected DA George Gascon has some great reformation that he wants to do to make the bail system less unjust and a bit more equitable for people, particularly people of color. And so then we're going to write some emails to try to encourage, different attorneys, lawyers, judges, sheriffs to kind of get on board with these bail reforms. So yeah, again, we have 3 great speakers, and you guys are going to do not one, but 2 fantastic volunteer opportunities. One thing is the book shopping, and the second is the email letter writing, because, it's awesome that we want to help these kids that are currently in the juvenile detention center by giving them some books. But what if we could do some stuff to help keep people out of the criminal justice system in the first place? So hence why we also want to do this email writing component. So we hope that you'll stay with us to the end to be a part of that. And then I also just want to talk to you guys real quickly about some Zoom etiquette stuff. So first of all, you guys have noticed that you're all muted, and so we're going to keep you guys muted if that's okay. So please put any questions that you guys have in the chat. If you go to the bottom of your screen and hover over it, you should see there's like a little chat option. So if you guys have questions for our speakers, there will be kind of a Q&A at the end of their talk. So toss your questions in chat. Or if you have any resources that you want to share or something like that, feel free to, make a little bit of community today, because that is what today is for. We're all so far apart, and let's all, as safely and virtually as we can, let's create a little bit of community. So feel free to chat in chat. But I also just want to give you a heads up that if anything is happening in your video feed, if you're doing anything in your video or in the chat that we feel is intentionally antagonistic to the spirit of what this day is about, we're going to give you one warning, and then we will just remove you from the meeting. So just a heads up, we're going to be pretty good watchdogs about that. We want everyone to enjoy themselves here. And also a heads up, you guys, you're going to be opening up quite a few links. There's the participate page that you guys are going to want to be able to reference. We're also going to be, you're going to be doing some online shopping. You're going to be writing those emails. So just a heads up, you're going to be opening a bunch of windows. So if I were you, what I did is I went ahead and closed all of my other applications, because I have about 6 windows open right now. So I encourage you guys, if you're able to, close your other windows, close your other tabs, just because we're going to be visiting a lot of places digitally. And the last thing I want to give you a heads up about is a little bit of a trigger warning. We are going to keep our discussions PG, but there are some challenging topics that may be introduced as we discuss criminal justice. So just a heads up that there may be some potentially emotionally triggering content, but don't worry, we are keeping it PG. Again, we know that sometimes we have youth and children that are also participating in these conversations, and we do encourage it. We don't think this education can start too early for kids. And you'll notice actually in one of our Keep Learning resources, there's a whole bunch of children's books that speak specifically about the issues of criminal justice as it affects the Black population that are for kids. So, we are going to keep this appropriate for kids, but there still may be some challenging content that comes up. So just kind of be aware of that and give yourself space as you need it to deal with that. And the final thing that I want to do is share with you our social tags, because we would love it if you can keep the discussion going by shouting us out on social. On Instagram and Twitter, we're at LA Works Now. On Facebook, we're at LA Works. And if you guys want to share your feelings, share your thoughts, snap some selfies and take some pictures and send them and share them with us, chances are good we're going to reshare them. We're just super excited. And with so much sometimes not fun stuff in our social feeds, why not take today as the chance to fill our social feeds with some positive stuff and show people that we're getting out and we're doing good stuff. So feel free to indulge in some selfies and share those if you like. So thank you again, you guys, for joining us. Without further ado, let's do some good and honor Dr. King, shall we? You guys want to get started? Give me a thumbs up if we should get started. All right, great. Happy to see you all ready to go. So the first thing on our agenda is we're going to have Miss Yana Simone Grammer from New Earth speak about the current criminal justice system, again, with a specific emphasis kind of on juvenile justice, and share a little bit about how it disproportionately affects communities of color, including the Black community. So Jessica, if you wouldn't mind unmuting Miss Yana Grammer, that would be wonderful. And I'll give you guys just a quick rundown of what a great person Yana is and how lucky we are to have her speaking with us. She's responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of New Earth since its inception in 2004. And it has become a key player and thought leader throughout LA County in the arena of juvenile justice reform. She oversees all the aspects of the organization from fund development to finance to operations to program development. And she's amazing. And we are so excited for her to share her wisdom with you guys. So welcome, Yana.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Denise. And thank you for everyone having me here and allowing me to share this incredible day in honor of Dr. King. I wanted to just kind of kick it off with a quote. And there's so many amazing quotes, but this one I think really applies to what I'm going to be sharing about, which is that, Dr. King said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." So just wanted to kind of start this conversation off with the quote and just share a little bit about New Earth. So as Denise mentioned, we started the organization back in 2004 with my husband, Harry Grammer, and I started the organization really as a way to connect with young people who are incarcerated in Los Angeles. In LA disproportionately incarcerates young people, more young people than any other nation in the world, and continues so, although the system has shrunk, and I'll share a little bit about that later. But when we started our work in 2004, there were about 30,000 kids that were either locked up or on probation, locked up basically inside of what they call youth camps, detention camps, but they're nothing like Camp Snoopy. I mean, these are jails, where kids are coming in handcuffed, wearing orange jumpsuits, and children as young as 13. And youth of color are significantly overrepresented in the Los Angeles County justice system and have been since the time that we started our work. Black youth are nearly 15 times as likely as white youth to be referred to probation, and 22 times as likely as white youth to be securely detained pre-adjudication. And these disparities grow as youth penetrate the justice system in Los Angeles and serve as further validation for the need for fundamentally to reimagine youth justice. And as I said, when we started our work in 2004, there were 18 youth detention facilities and halls in LA County, 30,000 kids either locked up or on probation. And we began as a poetry program offering, poetry and creative writing and mentorship programs inside of the camps. At one point, we were working with about anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 kids a week. And young people as young as 13, 12 years old, and we began as a poetry program. And then for many years, we were just working behind the bars, essentially. And we realized that great programs that were in jail were not enough to keep kids from cycling in and out of the system. We would see the same young people that were coming in and were excited to work with us and had, were walking out with a CD or a book of all their work, and they would come right back in. So we knew that there had to be a better way, and realized that having great programs in jail were not enough. And so we started doing work in the community, providing jobs and providing case management services and supportive services for our young people to give them an opportunity to have something in the community that they could hold on to, something that would give them, kind of a new lease on life and be able to give them an opportunity to make money and have a steady paycheck in their pockets. Or otherwise, the life in the communities are tough with gangs and young people being on the block and doing things that are getting them cycling back into the system. And so in 2015, we began our New Earth Arts and Leadership Center in Culver City. And with this, we've been able to provide jobs, a high school diploma program for young people as old as 25. So a lot of our kids are disconnected. So they at some point drop out of school. So we reconnect them back to school. We reconnect them back to work, along with our trauma-informed therapeutic programs, our arts programs, and really just, giving young people an opportunity to have opportunity, and to be able to see that there's something different and there's something better and there's something new for them, and really kind of level the opportunity gap. In 2019, we began our diversion program in partnership with the Youth Development Department of LA County and the Culver City Police Department. Really our goal and collective goal was to reach youth as young as 13 prior to arrest, in lieu of arrest. They never ever hit the criminal database, because as soon as they hit that criminal database, there's a pipeline that starts from, we call it the cradle to prison pipeline. So it starts in school, it goes into the juvenile justice system, and then ultimately it feeds into the adult prison system. Over the last decade, reforms at every stage of the justice system have reduced overall numbers of youth involved, but they've increased racial disparity over time, especially for Black youth. For example, the number of petitions filed in juvenile court in Los Angeles decreased from 18,012 in 2008 to 6,209 in 2018, a 66% increase. At the same time, the disparity or relative likelihood of having a petition as a Black youth increased by 131% from 2008 to 2018. In 2008, Black youth were 8.6 times more likely than white youth to have a petition filed. In 2018, Black youth were 19.8 times more likely. So, a lot of this disparity, again, as I said, starts at school, right? So for youth of color, specifically Black children, adolescence and the journey along the path of opportunity and towards self-sufficiency is too frequently derailed by criminalization, arrest, and incarceration. Though adolescence is a time of risk-taking for all youth, white youth are less likely to be criminalized for the same behavior, and more likely to be given access to supportive alternatives than youth of color. Talk about, the probation officers who are stationed in schools. In Black communities, you have POs that are stationed in schools just waiting for a young person to have, too many truancies. Or, we've heard stories and we've seen young people get arrested for getting a D on their report card because it was a violation of probation. So obviously, the chips are stacked against, youth of color, specifically Black youth in this county. But there is some good news. There is light at the end of the tunnel. In the last month, the Board of Supervisors approved a revolutionary motion, which essentially will move all youth out of the probation department and into the youth development department. So that's the county department that we partner with our diversion program. And the money that is allocated towards probation, somewhere like 300 million right now is what the probation budget looks like, although the referrals have shrunk in more than half in the past 8 years. So our system has gotten smaller. Right now, there's about 200 or so kids that are either locked up in the camps and the halls. Huge change from, almost 20 years ago, which was something like 30,000. But the budget continues to remain high and continues to grow. And so right now, basically incarcerating a young person costs about $593,000. $593,000 per year to incarcerate one young person. And that's because the system is shrinking, the budgets are growing, and there's advocates and community-based organizations, and finally the Board of Supervisors that are recognizing that there is and has got to be a better way. So moving young people out of probation, which is essentially a system of penalization that disproportionately affects Black youth and youth of color, and moving them into a department called like YDD, which is all about youth development and diversion, and funding nonprofits and organizations that are doing good work in the community, that are doing, healing, trauma-informed work. Because as I mentioned before, where white youth are more than likely to be referred to systems of care, Black youth and youth of color are more likely to be referred to probation. So, the future really looks good, and it looks like this city and the county are really making some major reforms. And that it's, if you guys are interested in learning more, there's the Youth Justice Realignment Work Group report that I'm happy to share. And there's a lot of work that's being done right now in the community, at the community level and the advocacy level. As far as just the adult criminal justice system, there's a lot of information that's available out there. I think for time and brevity, I won't go into it in detail, but I will say that if you're interested, the NAACP has a lot of statistics around the adult criminal justice system, around the fact that even our modern day policing system came from slave patrols, and that we are incarcerating more people and have incarcerated more people than have actually been enslaved in this country. Michelle Alexander and The New Jim Crow is another really great book and great information to read on this. And so just in closing, what I will say is that New Earth is here, and there's other nonprofits and community-based organizations and alternatives to incarceration for young people. But right now we're waking up finally, and I think we're really recognizing that regardless of how obviously disproportionate it is, and how the criminal justice system so disproportionately affects Black youth and youth of color, the fact that we incarcerate young people at all is a travesty. That's a human rights issue. It's not a criminal justice issue. It's not a police reform issue. It is a human rights issue. So I'm looking forward to a new leaf being turned and new opportunities for young people to be referred to organizations like ours. One thing I didn't mention is that we have a 93% success rate. So 93% of our youth stay out of the criminal justice system as long as they're continuing to enroll in our programs. And there's other great nonprofits out there that have great statistics like this as well. With our diversion program, 98% of our young people do not have any further interactions with law enforcement once they've been enrolled in our programs. So, obviously programs like this work, communities that are supporting communities, that works, and decriminalizing youth, that works. So that's all I got. I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you again, Denise and team, for having me and allowing me to speak on New Earth and the criminal justice system.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love it if you guys have any questions about that you'd like me to field to ask Yana, please put them in the chat. One question that I'd love to share with you, Yana, is a little bit about what do these, youth camps kind of look like? Because one reason why I'm super passionate about this is because I used to volunteer at Eastlake, where Todd was, yes. And I didn't, and please forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but it's quite different from the adult criminal justice system in that they're basically stuck in jail. Like there's not really like when they've been convicted of something, they're basically stuck in little kid jail until their court date.
Yes.
I don't totally understand the parole system, if you will, for kids, but there's no real innocent until proven guilty. They get locked up.
Yes. Yes. So there were 3 halls. When we started our work, there were 3 halls, juvenile halls, and then sorry, I might get this wrong, but it was something like 18 camps. Okay. So if a young person was arrested, they would immediately be sent to one of the halls. So they'd be held at the halls indefinitely until their court date. And a lot of times those court dates would get moved and things would, lengthen, and the kids would be sitting there for sometimes months without even having a court date. So no convictions. Exactly. They're just sitting in jail, essentially. It's not Camp Snoopy. And then once they do see the judge, and once there is a sentence, they're sent to the camps. And the camp sentence can be as short as 3 months, although very far and few between, as long as a year, and sometimes even longer. And so that's kind of how the system was set up and continues to be set up. But again, I think the good news is there's a lot fewer young people now locked up than ever before.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think that is? Why do you think that the youth juvenile justice system, did you say that it was something at 3 or 30,000 and now it's at 800 or some much other
it's
number?
about 800. Yes. No, that's a great question. There's been so much advocacy work that's been happening at the grassroots level, at the community level. Foundations have been involved. I mean, there's been a lot of advocacy around just changing the structure of the justice system and pretty much, getting youth out of probation's hands, essentially. So that's been working. And then COVID, right? So with COVID, they sent a lot of kids home. So that was positive. That was good. But through the years, it's been they've been closing camps, and so that's another thing. The camp closures have been really affecting the population, and probation is being forced to figure out different ways of doing this.
Great. I would love to hear more. Brandy has a question about youth being tried as adults.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear your thoughts on, why people think this is a good idea, why people think this is a bad idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, youth being tried as adults, there's usually this sort of crossover around, 16, 17, and it really depends on the crime that was committed or supposedly committed. But there's legislature that is passing and has been passed around making that illegal. So, there's a lot of reform that's happening around that. I mean, my thoughts are that no, youth should not be tried as adults. Part of it is because there's so much science around brain development, and that, brains are not fully developed until 25. So to try a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old as an adult is completely, again, I think it's a human rights violation. But the legislature is being passed to overturn that. So I think we're on the right direction.
Speaking of legislature, this isn't exactly, sort of legislature, sort of not. But Jeff asked if you have any thoughts on the new DA, George Gascon, and his, efforts for not just criminal justice reform, but also, potentially specifically how he's really against having kids tried as adults. What are your thoughts and feelings on that?
Yeah, I love George Gascon. I voted for him, and I think that he is very progressive, and I think this is exactly what our city needs. In fact, George Gascon and his initiative is allowing young people who are working with the DA right now to be referred to us as a diversion site, regardless of where they live. So right now, there's probably about 7 or 8 diversion sites that are spread around the county. We're obviously in Culver City, so we get a lot of the South Bay kids in the West Side and a lot of the kids in South Los Angeles. But because of George Gascon's efforts, he really believes in, he understands the science behind brain development. He understands that kids shouldn't be tried as adults. And so he's referring a lot of those youth out to us. So with our diversion program, young people are able to just complete a 6 to 9 week program, just depending on, how long and sort of what their goals are. And once they complete the program with us, and it's a combination of leadership development, arts, case management, they get therapy, they get really kind of a slew of wraparound care and support. And once they complete the program, there is no charge, essentially. It never gets filed. So there's no charge, it just goes away.
That's great. And it seems like there's quite a few questions that are asking about the cost of rehabilitation versus, versus just putting them in jail.
Yeah.
Do you have any information? I know that those might be kind of some numbers that may not be easy to rattle off, but if you know of any, that would be great.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned earlier, right now, the cost to incarcerate one young person, and unfortunately, I only have the statistics for youth. I'm sorry, I don't have the adult statistics. I think they're probably a little less, but to incarcerate one young person, it's $593,000 per year.
Per year, so $500,000 a year.
Yes, $500,000 a year. That's partially because the probation budget continues to grow, and the justice system, the juvenile justice system is shrinking, right? So probation continues to have the amount of employees and all the resources and all the things that they have in place, regardless of how many youth there are to serve. So for example, for our program, it costs $3,500 per youth per year. So basically they get all the wraparound services and support. They get a case manager that's assigned to them, that's checking in with them consistently, sometimes even every day, depending on kind of the level of support they need. They get therapy, they get arts programs. They're enrolled in a charter high school diploma program that's A through G, meaning once they get their diploma, they're actually eligible to enroll in a four-year university, a UC university. You know, they have caring adults that support them and care about them and provide resources, jobs and job training. And all of these things are available because we're a nonprofit and because we're community-based and because we're nimble and we're not bureaucratic. And so I think that is being recognized now. And that's why with all this new reform, I think some of these dollars are going to be moved to YDD, to the Youth Diversion Development Department, to then contract with community-based organizations like us as alternatives to incarceration.
That's great. I mean, to me, that sounds like a win-win situation. You have less recidivism, which means, you know, ending back up in the pipeline or ending back up in the detention center or the prison when you receive rehabilitation, and it's less expensive for people and it's less expensive for taxpayers and stuff like that. So it's just, it seems like a win-win situation. So hence why we are also passionate about this. But I may be preaching to the choir. Chances are good you guys are here today because you also care about this and believe in this. We got so many great questions. So we'll keep talking for we'll do 5 more minutes and then we'll have Todd speak just a little bit. But one of the other, let's see here, another question that I saw was asking, Connie asked, why is the Juvenile Justice Department budget growing? Is this an industry situation like the prison system? Why are they still getting more money?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that question, Connie. There's so many things that come up that, you know, I think about later, but part of the reason why it's growing so significantly is actually because of a state initiative. So, you know, obviously the money that goes to the probation departments come from the state. And so I don't know if some of you guys are aware, but before COVID, Governor Newsom signed a new law in that, you know, he was going to be moving the DJJ, which is the Department of Juvenile Justice, into DHS, into the Department of Health and Human Services, because also he was recognizing that, you know, incarcerating kids is not a great idea. Their brain, you know, development obviously ends somewhere around 25, 26. And that really, it's not, you know, youth incarceration is not a criminal justice issue. It's a health and human services issue. And so in recognition of that, his goal was to move the entire department over to DHS. However, with COVID and the huge budget deficit that the state of California was facing, something in billions of dollars, he made a change to that bill and basically said that he was going to close DJJ completely and move all those kids into the local probation departments. So hence moving all the money that was going to be allocated to DHS now to the local probation departments, and let the probation departments figure out what to do. And so that's another reason why there's been such advocacy. And this is probably why the Board of Supervisors passed the motion about a month ago, was that, you know, probation, you know, they really shouldn't be trusted with all of this money. Their work is not working. You know, I mean, not to say that in some cases, kids, that there are some instances where there should be some kind of system that kids are enrolled in, but 90% of our youth are there for nonviolent offenses. A lot of them are statutory offenses. It does not make sense to put all that money into the hands of the local probation departments. And so that's why the budget is so inflated.
Mm. Now, you said 90% are nonviolent crimes. What are some typical things that you encounter kids that have entered this pipeline because of?
Great question. Yeah, it's, you know, I'm going to share it with you, and you guys, your minds are going to be blown. But things, like I said, you know, getting a D on the report card. If a young person has stepped into the criminal justice system, right? It could be a minor offense where they were at the wrong place at the wrong time, right? Somebody stole something and they were there, and now they've been incarcerated. Now they're on probation. So now there's a what they call conditions of probation that's written up for them, right? So then essentially they have to meet these conditions in order to get out probation. Sometimes the conditions of probation have things on there like they have to maintain, a C average. They can't come to school late, or they can't not go to school. So all of these different things are set into their conditions of probation. If a young person violates one of these conditions, now they've violated probation. So now they get thrown right back into the system. And that happens all the time. Those are called statutory offenses.
Great. So it's like, it's not the initial thing. It's just that they violated probation, and back in they go.
Yes.
And those, sometimes those violation probation issues are maybe things that we have done ourselves. Like he who has never got below a C on his report card cast the first stone.
100%. And a really tough one is seeing their probation officer, right? A lot of times they got to go in and see their probation officer, and it's like they have to do these regular visits. But LA is hard to get around. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but if you don't have a car, just on regular kind of day to day when we're not in COVID land, but it's hard to get around. Sometimes to go from one end of the city to another, it takes 2 to 3 hours to be on public transportation. And obviously now with COVID, it adds another level of just danger, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big one. A lot of our kids are reincarcerated because they missed their way too many appointments with their PO.
Mm. Yeah. And it's also like important to point out, like you said, public transit takes an inordinate amount of time out of their schedules, and their guardians may not have the luxury of being able to take time off work. They may be in jobs where they don't have a car, or they can't get them there.
Yes. And, we're lucky that we have this amazing partnership with Lyft. I'll give a little shout out to Lyft. And Lyft provides Lyft credits. So we're able to transport our kids around using Lyft. And it's been really helpful, especially nowadays with COVID and just all the things that have been happening. And it's helpful for them to get to work. It's helpful, for them to get where they're going on time, and really helps reduce, the possibility of them getting a refile.
Yeah, that's great. I love Leanne's idea. Why doesn't the probation officer go and see the child? Like, I used to work with a lot of case managers that go to the house.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. It really depends on who you got,
Yeah.
And there's some probation officers that do. But a lot of times the youth have to do their check-ins. So sometimes it's at the station at the office. Sometimes the POs are great. And if they have, like, for example, with us, we might have one PO that has 5 to 10 kids that are enrolled in our programs. So they'll come and do their meetings on site with us. That's amazing. That's super helpful. But it really just depends on the probation officer.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I apologize, guys. There's just so many great questions in the chat here, but we've got to move along. So Jessica, if you wouldn't mind unmuting Todd, I think everyone would love to hear from Todd. Mr. Todd Bynum is the library manager at Eastlake Juvenile Hall, one of these places where the kids hang out until their trial date. And I say hang out very loosely because, it's not a place where they're free, to live their lives as they usually do. And he's going to tell us a little bit about the residents of Eastlake and just how valuable books are to them at this phase in their life. So, and again, Todd has worked for the LA County Library for over 30 years and has been the library manager of Central Juvenile Hall since June of 2018, but has worked as many locations over the course of his career. And again, we're just super grateful to have him here to tell us a little about the kids and the residents at Eastlake.
Sure. Thank you, Denise, and good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to tell you about a young man who was visiting the library. He was uncommonly grateful for the books that we were able to get for him. Now, this young man revealed that he was homeless and lived a rough life on the streets to escape a horrendous home life. My heart immediately went out to such a bright and friendly young man and who was in such unfortunate circumstances. Also, many of our young ladies visiting our girls' library have endured horrific circumstances, some of them victims of trafficking and entered into the sex trade. Some of these young ladies these young ladies shouldn't be treated as criminals because they are victims. Behind every young person on the streets who is in the sex trade, there is an adult who is responsible. And then, of course, we have some of our teams who find themselves in juvenile hall due to poor choices. And you can raise your hand if you've never made poor choices in life. Denise, are there any hands, or should I move on?
I say raise your hand if you have never made a poor choice.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
You never went through your rebellious phase.
Right. All right. So obviously we all have made some poor choices in some time of our life. But whatever the reason these young people find themselves in juvenile hall, I'm so glad that the books we can offer them from the library can give them some form of relief. It warms my heart when I see a teen's face light up when they walk into our library and they see what we have to offer. Some of their faces light up because they see the beanbags that we have in our library. But many of our kids, their faces light up because the books that we have to offer them and the magazines that we have. So I literally can't tell you how much of an impact your donations will have on these teens. We all need an escape from time to time. And like many of you, I wanted to escape the entire year of 2020. I don't know how I could convey to you how much your book donations will mean to these kids. And on behalf of the Los Angeles County Public Library, the Los Angeles County Probation Department, and the Los Angeles Office of Education, and more importantly, the kids of Juvenile Hall, I want to say in advance, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Todd. And again, I used to volunteer with those same kids, and they would show me some of the, and they were so starved for books, man. They're so bored. They're like stuff that they would, I joke that like, it's a great time to exploit their desire for literacy, or exploit their desire for something to do, because they're just pretty darn bored. And I've seen the books that they have there. Like those books are hard used. They have passed through many hands, and they kind of look like they're in rough shape, like some of the ones that I saw. So I'm sure they could use, they can use some more, and that the kids are extremely hungry for books.
And Denise, if I may, what Denise was saying about the books being hard used and everything. So we do have a limited budget. So often the material that the kids are asking for, we don't have available. That hurts me. So we try to do what we can to get the books in, but again, there's only so much you can do on a limited budget. Sorry, Denise, just wanted to put that in.
No, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So that's why it's really great that you guys are here to help today. That, it doesn't take, you don't have to be a millionaire to buy a handful of books for some kids waiting for their court dates. And it's really going to mean everything to them. Carrie asked, what kind of books do the kids like best?
Oh my God, it runs the gambit. I mean, I have some kids. I remember one particularly, all he wanted was the classic books. I think I've been threatened over Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I literally can't keep enough of Diary of a Wimpy Kid kids in the library. And then there are some of them want books on philosophy, religion. I mean, it just runs the gambit. Black history, Hispanic history. So it just runs the gambit, actually.
That's wonderful. And you spoke a little bit about the reading levels. What kind of readers do you get in there?
So it ranges. I mean, like I said, we had one young man I can think of in particular, all he wanted was the classic books. Had a very high reading level, of course. And actually a lot of them do have high reading level, but we do have some, they want more or less picture books with few words. So we try to provide that as well. So it ranges from, lower level to very high level, actually.
Mm-hmm. And what ages are the kids at Eastlake?
The kids that we tend to get in the library, now Eastlake, I'm going to tell you that I was told around 13. Someone can correct me if they're younger, but I believe at least around 13 or so. Up to, supposed to be up to 17, 18, but we do have some that are older, that are still waiting to be moved to another location, or waiting for their trial dates, etc.
Wonderful. Well, great. So the wonderful thing is Todd has actually helped put together a great list of books, maybe that some of these kids have been asking for, but we also have just a lot of, because this is Martin Luther King Day and because representation is so important, we have compiled a list of books by Black authors, just because those voices need to be heard. So without further ado, I think that we can go ahead and start shopping for some books. You guys want, shall we do that? I want to be sure that I give you guys time to do that. So let me just show you the instructions for that. So the instructions, if you want to participate in this book donation, and thanks so much again, Todd. I'm so grateful to have you here and to hear from you about those great kids over there. So book donations for Eastlake Juvenile Detention Center. This is important, guys. The books have to be paperback and contain no staples. Hardbound books or books with staples will not be accepted. So you don't want to throw your money away on these beautiful hardbound volumes because they will not be able to be used. So as you're doing your shopping, make sure that you're selecting the paperback option. Make sure that whatever site you choose to go shopping on, you're selecting the paperback option. And you can find our list of curated books if you go to bit.ly/MLK_books. And that password, or excuse me, that web address is case sensitive. So you'll go bit.ly/ and then MLK_books is in all caps. So please head there. And I know some people love Amazon. Some people are like, oh, Amazon's the big kid on the block. Maybe I want to try some other independent booksellers. So you will find on that list some additional websites of places where you can find these books. And then when it comes time for you to check them out online, or even I think some of those online booksellers are places where you can physically go and pick up a copy and you can mail it yourself if you so decide. Have the books shipped to Mr. Todd Bynum, librarian, who you met today, at 1605 Eastlake Ave, LA, California, 90033. So I'm going to give you guys 15 minutes to do some online shopping. And I'm going to leave these instructions up the whole time. And you guys, I say, just feel free to stick around if you want. You don't have to, although I said I'm giving you guys 15 minutes to shop, you don't have to leave the Zoom meeting. I would say, you're muted. If you want, you can just turn off your video feed or something like that. And we'll all just come back at 4. Well, we'll make it a little bit more. Yeah, we'll say 4:15, or excuse me, not 4:15, 4:05 is when we'll come back at 4:05. So that gives you guys almost 15 minutes to do some online shopping. So I'm going to leave this up until 4:05, and I'll give you guys some verbal sort of, T-minus 10 minutes, T-minus 5 minutes for when we're going to come back and then hear from Dominique and Priscilla, who will teach us how to write some emails to do some advocacy work around bail reform. So again, see you all at 4:05. If you have any questions or any difficulties with the online book shopping, feel free to drop them in chat, and Jessica, Cami, and I will be happy to help you. So once again, thank you so much to Yana and Todd. Thanks. And we'll see everyone at 4:05. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great time shopping. I just wanted to let you know that we still got about T-6 minutes. So keep those great donations coming. And again, I'll see everyone back at 4:05. All right, everybody, it's 4:04, so I think it's about time to put those last books in your cart and check out. And yeah, we're going to have Dominique Davis and Priscilla Martinez speak in just a few minutes. So I'll give you just another minute or so to kind of wrap up. And if you'd like to go ahead and turn your videos back on, then I'll know that you guys are here and ready for activity number 2, which is going to be email writing. But again, I'll give you just one more minute to finish up here. All right, so now we are back. So just in case you want to hold on to this information, it will be put up on our participate page after this session. We'll also keep this, we'll also attach this image to the thank you email that we're going to send. So you guys can absolutely share it with friends and coworkers if you know of anyone that might like to also donate some books. But yeah, for now, if you want to screenshot this or take anything down, you're welcome to, because I'm taking this information down right now so that we can move on to Dominique and Priscilla. All right. Well, thank you guys so very much. As I mentioned, I've been to Eastlake before, and I've seen just how much these kids appreciate these books. So they're going to be very excited to have this just flood of great new books. So thank you guys so much. And if anyone is willing, you know, LA Works loves to sort of do a preliminary, you know, to tell everyone like, hey, today on Martin Luther King Day, we made 2,000 lunches for Midnight Mission. We did blah, 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 blah. So if anyone is willing to pop in the chat how many books you ordered, it's always nice for us to just be like, hey, look at the great, you know, the great amount of books that we were able to give to people today. So if you guys don't want to do it publicly, if you just want to do it privately or something like that and just say, hey, I did this many, or something like that, that would be cool, because we would just love to be able to add them up and just share with all you guys the great work that you're doing. Because right when we're doing it individually, it feels like, oh, I only bought a few books. But then all of a sudden, once we get everyone going, then all of a sudden you see like, holy cow, this is like 200 books, 300, 400, however many books that we bought. So yeah. Great job, guys. So wonderful, guys. Thank you so much. We'll add that up and we'll all be super excited about the great work that we did. And like I said, share it with your friends. Christmas doesn't have to be over now. It can keep being Christmas for Eastlake for a while. So yeah, without further ado, I would love to get going on our advocacy activity. You know, as I mentioned, you've done a great job volunteering to help those kids that are already affected by the criminal justice system. But now is your chance to help keep people out of it in the first place. And you may be wondering, how do I do that? Well, you can do that by advocating for policy change. And Dominique and Priscilla are going to tell us all about this. They're both with the Bail Project and will tell us a little bit about how the current bail system disproportionately targets Blacks, and what new reforms are in the pipeline that are trying to happen, that some people are saying, no, we don't want that to happen. And we say, yeah, we want that to happen. Then she'll walk us through how to write an email to some of the bail reform opponents, asking them to get on board. And then again, we'll give you guys time to write these emails. And again, you know, you may feel like, oh, it's just one email, but when all of a sudden you know, like you're seeing in the chat, like you put together of a few letters, and all of a sudden they're going to wake up, tomorrow they're at work and just be like, holy cow, I got 100 letters telling me that I got to get on board with A, B, or C. So this is amazing. How many people do we have in here? Yeah, we have 101 people in this room right now. So if you guys can if they get 100 letters, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be very powerful. They will have to listen to that. So anyway, without further ado, Dominique Davis is a social justice advocate determined to disrupt the outdated practices and systems that disproportionately affect community of color. And as a system impacted person herself and native of Los Angeles, she understands the role that the cash bail system has played in further financially crippling lower and middle class communities. So she's right there she's right there with them, and she knows what's going on. And Priscilla Martinez is a project associate and bail disruptor who leads work in hiring and site prospecting, while also serving clients directly at the Bail Project's Los Angeles site. And she's also been a busy volunteer herself. She's been helping out with organizations that deal with HIV and AIDS advocacy, women's homelessness, immigration advocacy as well. So she's another one of these people in the community that that knows what's going on. So they have great wisdom to share with us. So without further ado, please, ladies of the Bail Project, tell us what's going on. Tell us about, what bail looks like currently, what it could look like, and how we can make it look like that. So yeah, Jessica, if you wouldn't mind unmuting Priscilla and Dominique, that would be wonderful. Maybe we got to find them. Oh, I think you're.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
So I'd like to start and kind of kick us off and talk about bail and the Bail Project. But I do want to go in on bail and kind of break it down for folks who may not know what it is. So bail is basically a condition of release in which a person accused of a crime pays an amount of money determined by a judge. And this is supposed to ensure that they return to court. The average amount of bail nationwide is $10,000, but in many marginalized communities impacted by poverty, over-policing, mass incarceration, and police brutality, much like the one I grew up in Koreatown, Los Angeles, families are only making between $26,000 to $50,000 a year, and sometimes even lower than that. So many people are left with two options, either waiting in custody until they can see a judge or paying a bail bondsman. And a bail bondsman requires a percentage of what the bail is set at and can also ask for collateral such as your home or vehicle. It is evident that this condition of release is problematic because it rests on the ability, or more often than not, the inability for people to pay for their own freedom. And it doesn't take into context and consideration the financial circumstances that, most people who are impacted by the system face. If someone can't afford their bail, they'll be held in pretrial detention for days, months, and in some cases, even years. And according to the Sentencing Project, over 60% of people are held in jail. And, when they're in jail, they're at risk of losing their job, they're at risk of losing housing, and in some instances, even their children. And bail disproportionately impacts communities of color, but specifically the Black community. And according to a Harvard report, Racial Bias in Bail Decisions, Black people in particular are more likely to be held in pretrial custody than white people, even if they commit the same crimes. And they're also more likely to be assigned higher bail amounts. And 50% of young Black men are more likely to be detained and stay in custody as opposed to young white men. As we all can see, the system of cash bail directly contributes to mass incarceration. And I would say that it's also a coercive system that leads marginalized groups to plead guilty for crimes that they didn't even do and serve time for things that they shouldn't have ever even been locked up for to begin with. So now I want to kind of introduce the Bail Project. We launched in January of 2018, so it's actually almost 3 years. And we have a mission to disrupt mass incarceration by paying one bail at a time. Our work is two-pronged, so it's to provide immediate relief to people that are incarcerated unjustly, and it's also to collect national data and tell human stories of how the impacts of pretrial detention impact communities, and better inform our policymakers, our local elected officials, and of course advocates, and to inspire them to reform and ensure long systemic change. And in 2.5 years that we've been operating, 2 to 3, like I said, 3, we've been able to secure the freedom of over 14,000 people. And once our clients are released, they're released through a model that we call community release with support. And we do this through 3 different components: effective court reminders, transportation assistance. So we also have a partnership with Lyft Concierge, and we're able to get clients rides. And I promise you, in Los Angeles, somebody telling you that you're gonna get a Lyft ride to court or to the services that you need to get to, that's like a golden ticket. I used to ride the bus myself. I know transportation is around here. So, you know, we also provide voluntary social service referrals. We partner with a community clinic called St. John's, and they provide reentry services. So when our clients come out, they feel like they're coming back into a community. And we have found that this model works and that it's an alternative to incarceration. And it shows that when people don't feel coerced to plead guilty, they're more likely to have their charges reduced or even dropped. And in fact, a lot of clients that we've worked with at the Bail Project in Los Angeles have gotten their cases dropped or reduced. And I'd also like to say that as far as, you know, the last number showed, we have in Los Angeles, we have a 96% return rate to court. So like I said, what we're doing is an alternative to incarceration and restoring community ties and restoring, you know, what it means to live as a collective and what it means to disrupt such a beast of a system that is designed to impact marginalized communities, to oppress marginalized communities, and to incarcerate marginalized communities instead of dealing with the root of the issues. And, you know, with all that being said, I'm going to hand it off to my wonderful coworker, a very powerful woman, Dominique.
I think you're muted, Dominique. Can we give Dominique the ability to talk?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Priscilla, for that wonderful introduction. My name is Dominique Davis, and I am a community member and social justice advocate for the community of Los Angeles, as well as a bail disruptor for the Bail Project program. I'm here today to talk to you about some of the pushback that our newly elected DA, George Gascon, has been getting in regards to bail reform and his directives that he implemented January 1st. So as Priscilla said, we deal with public defenders in Los Angeles County, and our goal is to disrupt the cash money bail system. We received a directive on January 1st from George Gascon, and the directive stated that people, because of the COVID-19 epidemic, people with homeless cases, drug-related cases, mental health cases, and nonviolent offenses would be able to do a no cash bailout. We're getting a lot of pushback from prosecutors out of the DA's office. We were getting a lot of pushback from the judges as well as law enforcement in regards to this. So we're here today to rally support for George Gascon and ask that these prosecutors, judges, and district and law enforcement officers stop over-policing our communities and overcharging our community members in order to meet their quotas for the jails. So I'd like to start by just pointing out some of the positive things that George Gascon has been rallying for in our communities, and they include ending the oversentencing and overpopulation of our jails and prisons, juvenile justice reform, as we heard about earlier. He also has a care-first approach to mental health, addiction, and homelessness through trauma-informed care. Many of the people who enter our justice system are first victims of crime before they ever enter the justice system. And so we want to start healing our community members and maybe finding an alternative to further traumatizing them and treating what it is that they're going through. George Gascon also believes in restorative justice for individuals serving past their base time for enhancement such as gang enhancements. A lot of our youth get gang enhancements because they live in their community, they hang out with their friends. They might have gotten in some trouble when they were younger, made a poor decision, but that decision haunts them for the rest of the time that they live in that community, because now the police identify them as a gang member or someone who's going to cause trouble when they might have already received the necessary treatment or the necessary care that they need to become a successful part of the community. I've witnessed this personally with my little cousin who was in the juvenile hall system. Once he turned 18, he'd still be harassed by the cops. He'd still be arrested and searched even after he had completed his probation. So this is unfairly affecting Black and brown communities specifically. And we'd like to address it with our prosecutors, judges, and DAs in law enforcement. So yeah, so Denise, do you have this the template? What we're going to do today is that we're going to write emails to the opposition on George Gascon, and there is a template that I wrote in regards to a letter, and I would plan to send mine to the district attorney's office. We will have some email addresses also that you guys can see, and send these emails out and let them hear our voices, because in 2020 we voted for George Gascon. We voted to allow parolees the right to vote. We voted for Measure J. These are all things working in our community. These are policies implemented in our community that we asked for, and George Gascon heard us. So why shouldn't we rally behind him, and why shouldn't the people that we have in higher power be supportive of our new DA? Thank you.
No, absolutely, Dominique. I mean, this was a democratically elected man, and yet there are other district attorneys, judges, lots of people just flat out refusing to do what this man, what his job is, what his job says he gets to tell us what to do. So yeah, let me show you guys it's a bunch of emails as well as some sample emails to send to people. And I wish I could remember off the top of my head, but the opposition that Gascon is facing in enforcing what it is, lawfully his job to do is pretty extreme. There were even a group of lawyers who tried to file a restraining order against him. So this isn't just light stuff. This is a very organized, concerted effort for people to try to recall him and just flat out refuse to do his, to do what he asks. So what the work that we're doing is very important. As Dominique said, the bail system in particular is kind of a mess. And so Gascon has some great reforms that are going to help with that. So if, just out of curiosity, give me a thumbs up if you guys have ever written to an elected official before, have ever said like, hey, do this thing. Great. I'm excited to see that some of you guys have done this before. But just in case you haven't, we want to make it as easy as possible for you guys. So we're sharing with you their emails, as well as 2 different templates that you can use. And we encourage you, if you want, you can literally just copy paste, but we encourage you to personalize it, because if if they get the same email 100 times, they're going to be like, but also just if you can make it powerful, if you can say like, this affects me personally because, like Dominique said, I have a cousin, I have, something like this. If you can personalize it, that might tug on their heartstrings a little bit more. So we do encourage you to personalize it in whatever way you can. So without further ado, let me share with you where you can find this. So if everyone will check out the chat, I just re-put in the link to our participate page. That's the page where you found this Zoom link, but I'm also going to share my screen because you'll want to go down, not to the landing page here, but over where it says letter writing. So there's like different chapters, if you will, on our participate page, and you want to click on letter writing. And so then over on that letter writing page, you'll see that we have the emails for 3 different law enforcement people, and then about 6 different leaders of district attorney associations, because they are organizing, guys. It's not just a handful of attorneys who are crossing their arms and saying we're not going to play. They are getting what is the equivalent of their unions involved in. They are organizing very seriously to to oppose these bail reform efforts. So that's why we're reaching out to the heads of these attorney associations, because they are organized at that level. So yes, these are where you'll find all the emails. And then we have 2 sample emails. The first sample email is the one that Dominique wrote. And our second email is a little bit more, addresses just the overall disparity that we see in the incarcerated population. The first one focuses on George Gascon's reform specifically. And the second one is just like, hey, we see that there's a problem with what our incarcerated population looks like. It's not representative of, what our actual population looks like. It's skewed quite a bit. So the second one focused just a little bit more on racial bias per se. So anyway, you have 2 emails that you can pull from, or you can write one, from scratch if you like. But if you're anything like me, you like to have something to start with and then kind of, tweak from there. So again, this is on the participate page. You'll want to go, when you put that link in initially, you'll get this landing page, but then you want to go over to letter writing. And this is where you'll find all the emails and all of the sample emails. So before I release you, let's see, it's 4:25 right now. So I'm going to give you guys 20 minutes to write emails. Before I let you go, does anyone have any questions that you want to toss in chat before I release you that I can answer for the whole group? Or actually, I'll just say, I'll be around for questions just in case anybody wants to ask some questions about this letter writing stuff. So yeah, again, I'm going to give you guys 20 minutes. So I'll see you guys all back here at 4:45. Again, follow that link and participate to the letter writing page, and that's where you'll find the emails and the templates. Let's see here. Jamie said, should I choose sample 1 or 2? It could be either one. To be fair, the emails that we have listed are people who are organizing against Gascon specifically. So, it's a slightly more specific target. But if you just want them to be more conscientious of the prejudices that exist in our criminal justice system against Black people and people of color, then you could start with the second template. We just have 2 options for you. Kat asked about subject lines. Subject lines. Subject lines are an art in and of themselves. So if I were you, I like to use questions in my subject lines. Like what are you doing to fight blah, blah, blah? What are you doing to help A, B, or C? Or I am a concerned citizen about something like that. Let's see here. Yes, and thank you so much for sharing the Bail Project website. Thank you for that. Let's see if there's any other questions. Oh, one other thing that I want to tell you guys to do is to not send them in a group email. And I wouldn't even probably BCC them. I would separately write an email to each of those people. Because if you just do a big group, spam filters kick in and they'll never see them. Same thing with BCCing. If you BCC a whole bunch of people, spam filters kick in and they won't ever get them. So I would just individually put in their email address one by one. Yeah, if you'd like to send the same question or the same letter to everybody, that's totally fine as well. But again, I do encourage you to personalize the templates a little bit. And Priscilla and Dominique, if I had some questions just about the cash bail system, would it be okay if we chat, if I asked them to you kind of during this time? Jessica, would you mind perhaps unmuting Priscilla and Dominique again so that we can talk about that? So the cash bail system, I still don't totally understand the cash bail system. Priscilla, you had mentioned that there's something about the cash bail system that encourages people to plead guilty. Can you explain how pleading guilty works in the cash bail system?
Sure. Oh. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So basically, when you're in pretrial detention, like I said, you get one of two options. Either you use a bail bondsman or you pay the bail yourself, or you just sit there and wait until you see the judge. You can't leave jail until you do one of those three options. So let's say you don't have any family, let's say you don't have any resources, let's say nobody can post bail for you, let's say maybe you're houseless, or you're going through a really tough spill in your life and you are pretty much out of those options, then the next thing you might want to do is just plead guilty to whatever charge they're accusing you of, so you can get out of jail faster. Because if you don't have the money, you're going to sit there and wait for months, sometimes even years, because the court systems are so backed up. And you're going to, like I said, you're going to wait all this time, and that you could have been outside if you could have just afforded to pay your bail. So in that way, it's very coercive, at least in my opinion, because you're basically faced with, okay, well, should I just plead guilty so I can get out, pay my rent, pay my car, get my kids, or should I wait months and months to prove that I didn't do this thing that they accused me of doing?
Mm-hmm. So they don't have to pay bail, or do they pay a reduced bail if they plead guilty?
Well, no. So once you plead guilty, you're, released on your own recognizance unless you get a prison sentence.
So you could literally be saving yourself $5,000 to $10,000+ by pleading guilty to something. Now, see, that was something that I didn't know. And you guys had mentioned like you could be in danger of losing your job or something if you can't make bail.
Definitely. A lot of our clients face, like Priscilla said, so many different traumas at that time. And cash money bail really comes down to who has the ability to pay and who's going to sit in here for months. And like Priscilla said, people lose their housing. Some people receive public housing. They'll lose their housing because they weren't able to check in with their case manager. Some people lose their family because their kids were taken by DCFS for whatever reason. We've seen some really heartbreaking stories where it's like, it just really comes down to, look, I need this so I can get out and take care of my life. And so what I love about the Bail Project is we offer we offer social services to our clients. So when we get a referral, we'll look and see what is it that this client needs at this time. Do they need counseling? What was happening to them before they went in? Is this their first offense? All these things equal up to how we can best serve them. We get clients who are just grateful to be home and all they need is transportation and a reminder to just get back to court, and they're able to go back to work and keep their housing. And it's just such a great thing to see. Also, the Bail Project, we are not a government office. We don't have any funding from we get all of our funding from private donations from individuals who understand the plight that is happening all across our country. The Bail Project didn't actually even start here in California. It started in New York in response to, what was it?
The Bronx.
The Bronx Defenders. That's where it started. It started off as a revolving bail fund there because there was such a dire need for people to be able to post bail. And I don't know if most of you, New York now does not have a cash money bail system. They've completely reformed their cash money bail system, and it's been great for their incarceration rate. It's down by a lot. I'm not sure the complete percentage, but it's down by a lot.
Great.
But thank you guys for.
Yeah. Also, do you know specifically, can you guys talk specifically about the reforms around bail that Gascon is asking for? I think that he wants an end to cash bail for misdemeanors. Is that correct? Is there anything else? Anything else that you can fill us in kind of about that?
He would like to see a care first alternatives to incarceration for community members who are experiencing homelessness, mental health crisis, drug abuse crisis. So basically what that would look like is an alternative to incarceration looks like, instead of this person being jailed for having a addiction problem, let's get this person into counseling, let's get this person into treatment. And it's rather than it be, okay, you're gonna go here to treatment, and if you fail, you're gonna go to jail for 5 years. We're gonna work with you. We're gonna take you through these steps, and ultimately provide wraparound services for you. So we're not just taking care of your health. We're taking care of your mental. We're taking care of your spiritual. We're reconnecting you with your family members, encouraging you to build your character and rise above the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Heal ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great, because it sounds like, again, incorporating rehabilitation rather than just punishment.
Definitely.
Wonderful. And yeah, forgive me for my just total ignorance, but it's just shocking to me that they expect people to have, $5,000-$10,000 in cash laying around. Like, that's not something that people just have laying around. I mean, a lot of the population doesn't have that in cash.
When you think about it, we have the biggest homeless population in the United States, and so many of the people sitting in the county jails right now are homeless individuals.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when you take a look at that, you're not really assessing what trauma made this person homeless. You're not assessing why is this person breaking into an abandoned place so they don't have to sleep in the rain, and they're getting caught for trespassing and things like this. You're not assessing, like, how can we get this person housed? You're locking them up, overcharging them, and knowing that they don't have the ability to pay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about the practice of the bail bonds, sort of like what it's like for someone who does go that route?
From personal experience, I can tell you that after you come up with a basic 10% for the bail bondsman, if you're able to pay that, they'll accept, I think, as low as 1% to 5%. The interest rates that you pay leading up to that 10% is so astronomically ridiculous. If you miss a payment, then they add more interest, and it's not. There's no one to report it to. There's no cap. You know what I'm saying? So it's free. It's freely gaining interest. It's affecting whoever helped co-sign you out, because at the time I didn't have the credit score or anything to say, hey, I can pay this money. So I had to rely on my father to help me. And so this debt now falls on my father, and it's affecting our family. And it's like so much just for me to end up getting out, getting the services I needed by myself, and then reaching back to go back and help other people, so they wouldn't have to go through the same thing, Yeah.
So. That's amazing. And thank you for sharing, because I'm sure, Dominique, I can hear it in your voice. This is something that is very important to you and affects you very deeply.
I can write better than I can talk, but it gets me so upset.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's why, Cammie mentioned, it sounds a lot like predatory lending. Because you put people in a certain position where they have very limited choices, and you got them over barrel, and they got to do that. But yeah, again, it just reminds me how grateful I am to have you here, Dominique, sharing your story, and Priscilla, of course, too. Just because this is something that we should care very passionately about. If it's happening to people in our community, we should care a lot about. And just thank you for taking the time to educate us on this, and sharing your knowledge and your experience and your expertise and stuff like that, and answering my stupid questions. Not my stupid questions, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Priscilla?
Denise?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to let you know there's no such thing as stupid questions. Honestly, we don't wake up and know about this. And I just kind of want to add something really quickly. I think that in the past, maybe people had seen bail as a form of public safety, but in California especially, we have some of the highest bails in the nation, and these bails aren't set for public safety. I mean, low-level crimes are still getting $30,000, $20,000, $50,000 bails. And the truth of the matter is that it's not a public safety issue, because if people just had the money to pay for it, then they'd be free. And we already know who has the money to pay for it in these communities, nationwide and citywide. So I'd just like to, drop that in a little bit. And again, remind you, there's no such thing as stupid questions to anyone. Like I said, we're not born knowing this. It's all like through years of experience and through listening and talking and, finding a collective and a community to really dig at these serious issues with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I apologize, guys. It looks like we may have the wrong email address for the director of the LA Police Protective League. Maybe if I take a few minutes, I can see if I can find a different one. But I do apologize. People are reporting it's not working. We'll let you know if we can find a better one. But for now, you can skip that one unless we can find a working one. Wonderful. And yeah, just to give you guys a heads up, we've got about 5 minutes left of writing. If you guys wouldn't mind dropping in the chat if 5 minutes is all you need, or if you need some more time, we can give you some more time. 5 minutes isn't going to do you. Just let me know and we can adjust. Priscilla and Dominique, do you two offhand know of any of the other reforms that Gascon is pushing for that are kind of rubbing people the wrong way? Or is your expertise basically on bail? Dominique?
As I mentioned earlier, I think another important issue is enhancements. So it's easy to add enhancements to people of color because we live in communities where they consider that we are congregating for gangs. We live in communities where they over-police us and charge us for hanging out with our friends from high school. I went to Crenshaw High School and personally saw this growing up all the time. I grew up in a neighborhood where it was definitely over-policed and underfunded. And so with that being said, and like someone mentioned, like one of the speakers mentioned earlier, we had a probation officer in our school, that also used to wait for us to do something wrong so he could catch us up. But all this to say that gang enhancements is one of the most useless enhancements I can think of, simply because you cannot charge somebody for a base crime and then say, oh, well, because you're from this area, we're going to give you an extra 5 years. Oh, because these 3 other individuals, we're going to give you an extra 10 to 15 years. That's not how our justice system is supposed to work. You do the time, you do the crime. If you go through due process and you plead guilty to that crime, you should do your base time and that should be it. But also he's working to revoke the 3 strikes law, which is another useless law that has not protected our community. It's been another reason why we are overpopulated in our prison system with Black and brown people. Like I said earlier, you have people who are traumatized and they might have experienced their first crime. I myself experienced the juvenile justice system at 16 and it was a strikeable offense. So with that first strike, my second strike, which was, or my second offense, which was something way less minor than the first offense, was almost strikeable for a second offense, and I'm going through all these traumatic things in my life and nobody's asking me like, hey, what's going on with you? Hey, why is this happening? Hey, it's just, we're going to give her time. We're just going to run it through the system, take this deal. If you take this overcharged deal, then you can go home today. We're going to charge you with 3-4 things, but you can go home today. So what that looks like for their DA is, hey, we charged all these people. We got all this crime taken care of. But really, you overcharged these people. You inflated your books, basically. So we're fighting against that. 3 strikes law is an inflation of books. And we just want to see, reform for these policies.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my friend Nisha is also saying, okay, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. So thank you, Dominique. And Cami says, yeah, enhancement seems a tragically inappropriate term. So enhancement sounds like a way that they increase your bail or increase your sentencing because they can find other things that they don't like about your background. That's really too bad. Well, originally we were going to pause right about now, but I think that we'll go ahead and give you guys 5 minutes. And I think I'll give you these last 5 minutes just without Priscilla and Dominique and I chatting so that we can focus. So we'll come back at 4:50. So instead of coming back at 4:45, we'll come back at 4:50 to finish these emails and just to hear about what your guys' experiences have been today. So I'm going to go ahead and mute and pause my video and then see you guys back in 5 minutes. Okay, just 2 more minutes and then we can come back together and I can share with you guys a few last resources if you guys want to keep up the great work after today. All right. Well, even if you guys aren't done with your emails yet, you've got the emails, you've got your, you've got the emails, you've got the templates and stuff like that, so you can keep working if you need a little bit more time. And so I just want to say once again, thank you so much, everyone, for all of your great work. Today, you've not only helped people in the criminal justice system, but you have helped keep people out of it. You didn't just participate in a book drive, you increased your understanding of the criminal justice system as a whole. You didn't just talk about change, you didn't just tweet about it, you didn't just repost something on Facebook. You actually advocated for real concrete advocacy, or you actually advocated for real concrete policy reform. So thank you so much. But I do want to let you know that the work does not have to stop here. We really hope it doesn't. Do you want to keep learning? We have some great articles that we've put together to help you read about this. As I mentioned, we even have some resources of books for kids to get them learning as well. Or do you want to even volunteer to help the incarcerated via the Bail Project or New Earth or some other places like Homeboy Industries or the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, stuff like that. I love that you got the snaps for Homeboy Coalition. I'm low-key obsessed with Father Greg Boyle. I've read like all his books, and I love eating at Homeboy Cafe too. Anyway, so I want to show you guys where on our participate page. Again, I'm going to drop that link in the chat, and also show you guys where you can find some more great ways to keep active. So if you click on the Keep Learning chapter of the Participate page, you'll see that we've got some great resources. Is my computer moving a little slow? Okay, just trust that they're there. Keep Learning is where you can find some great articles. There's even a test yourself for hidden bias test that you can take if you go to our Keep Learning collection. If you click on the Keep Doing collection, that's where you'll find different volunteer opportunities that could involve mentoring some incarcerated people. And if you click on the Keep Sharing page, this will take you to our criminal justice and race discussion board. And we encourage you to, join that discussion board and drop in a comment. Let us know, if you have found something that is helpful to other people. You got a good article, got a good volunteer opportunity, share it, or just talk about your experiences today. Let us know what you liked. And then finally, what we would love for you guys to do, if you want a chance to win 2 United Airlines tickets good for anywhere in the country through all of 2021, because if y'all don't want to be flying right now, I understand. If maybe you're thinking, maybe at the end of the year, if things, calm down a little bit. These 2 United Airlines tickets will be good for anywhere throughout the country through the year of 2021. You'll want to head to our Martin Luther King course on this Participate page to share your experience and be entered in the drawing. And how you do that is you go to this chapter that says complete your service. And then you'll click here, and it'll just ask you some questions like, tell us about your day. You'll just kind of fill out a survey, upload a selfie if you've got it. And then this is what it'll look like. And then you'll automatically be put in that drawing, as well as win a super nifty little badge that says that you participated in everything. So yeah, that's where you'll go. Again, you just jump back to where that is. If you want to answer those questions, complete your service and go into that raffle, you'll click on this complete your service area. And my fantastic helper, Jessica, I think is also probably putting some of those putting some of those links in the chat and stuff like that. And not only that, if you don't catch everything right now, no worries. We're going to send you a thank you email, and that will have all of these links and all of these resources in them as well. So if possible, I would love to give one final round of applause to Yana from New Earth, to Todd from Eastlake, and to Dominique and Priscilla from the Bail Project. None of this would have been possible without their wisdom or their amazing work. So let's all give them a round of applause. I don't know about you, but when I was in elementary school, I did this. This is our round of applause. So thank you so much, guys. You were such a gift to have today. And also I want to tell you guys, our volunteers, give yourselves a round of applause too, because you did great things today. And that is it. So goodbye, everyone. You're the best. Any questions, feel free to email us, but a lot of these resources will be sent in a follow-up email. Thank you to every one of you. Have a great Martin Luther King Day, and be proud of yourselves for the work you did today. Bye-bye.